The House will come to order. Prayer by the chaplain.
This is Patricia Lull, the Bishop of the St. Paul Area Synod of the Evangelical Lutheran Church. I hope it is now time.
It is time. Thank you.
Let us pause and pray. Holy God, holy and only wise, we seek your blessing on this assembly today. As those elected to represent all of us in this state, on this International Women's Day, keep them mindful of the long quest for gender equity and the full participation of women in decision-making. Hold in their minds the women whose courage has formed their own lives. Women with hands cracked and calloused from long days of work and chores. Women with hearts torn by grief. Women with minds that have been wearied in this long pandemic season. Women with nerves on edge awaiting justice for all their children. Women who stand tall to lead in challenging times. You, O God, are the source of lasting wisdom. Grant to these women and men a portion of your insight, as well as patience with one another, courage, and sustained health. Amen.
Amen.
The chaplain for today is Reverend Patricia J. Lull, Bishop for the St. Paul Area Synod of the Evangelical Lutheran Church of America. Pledge of Allegiance. Please remain standing and recite the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Members, when the chief clerk calls the roll today to establish a quorum, please state your name, your location, and that you are present. Members using the remote voting technology, please also press the green or yes button to indicate that you are here when your name is called. The clerk will take the roll.
Acom.
Acom, Minnetonka, present.
Acom, Minnetonka, present. Agbadge.
Agbadge, Minneapolis, present.
Agbadge, Minneapolis, present. Ackland.
Ackland, St. Paul, present.
Ackland, St. Paul, present. Albright.
Albright, Prior Lake, present.
Albright, Prior Lake, present. Anderson.
Anderson, St. Paul, present.
Anderson, St. Paul, present. Backer.
Backer, Browns Valley, present.
Backer, Browns Valley, present. Bonner.
Bonner, Maple Grove, present.
Bonner, Maple Grove, present. Barr.
Barr, East Bethel, present.
Barr, East Bethel, present. Baker.
Baker, St. Paul, present.
Baker, St. Paul, present. Becker Finn.
Becker Finn, Roseville, present.
Becker Finn, Roseville, present. Bennett.
Bennett, St. Paul, present.
Bennett, St. Paul, present. Berg.
Berg, Burnsville, present.
Berg, Burnsville, present. Bernardy.
Bernardy, New Brighton, present.
Where? Bernardy, New Brighton, present. Bierman.
Bierman, Apple Valley, present.
Bierman, Apple Valley, present. Bliss.
Bliss, St. Paul, present.
Bliss, St. Paul, present. Bow.
Bo Chanhassen, present.
Bow, Chanhassen, present. Bolden.
Bolden, St. Paul, present.
Bolden, St. Paul, present. Burkle.
Burkle, St. Paul, present.
Burkle, St. Paul, present. Carlson. Carlson. Christensen.
Christensen, St. Paul, present.
Christensen, St. Paul, present. Daniels.
Daniels, St. Paul, present.
Daniels, St. Paul, present. Daudt. Daudt, St. Paul, present. Davids.
David, St. Paul, present.
David, St. Paul, present. Davney.
Daphne, St. Paul, present.
Davney, St. Paul, present. Damuth.
Damuth, St. Paul, present.
Damuth, St. Paul, present. Detmer.
Detmer, Forest Lake, present.
Detmer, Forest Lake, present. Drazkowski.
Druskowski, Winona, present.
Druskowski, Winona, present. Eklund.
Eklund, Koochiching County, present.
Eklund, Koochiching County, present. Edelson.
Edelson Edina, present.
Edelson, Edina, present. Elkins.
Elkins, St. Paul, present.
Elkins, St. Paul, present. Erickson.
Erickson, St. Paul, present.
Erickson, St. Paul, present. Feist.
Feist, St. Paul, present.
Feist, St. Paul, present. Fisher.
Fisher, St. Paul, present.
Fisher, St. Paul, present. Frankie.
Frankie, St. Paul Park, present.
Frankie, St. Paul Park, present. Franzen.
Franson, Alexandria Township.
Franzen.
Franson, Alexandria Township, present.
Franzen, Alexandria Township, present. Frazier.
Frazier, New Hope, present.
Frazier, New Hope, present. Frederick.
Frederick, St. Paul, present.
Frederick, St. Paul, present. Freiburg.
Freiburg, New Hope, present.
Freiburg, New Hope, present. Garofalo. Garofalo, St. Paul, present. Gomez.
Gomez, Minneapolis, present.
Gomez, Minneapolis, present. Green.
Green, Foston, present.
Green, Foston, present. Greenman.
St. Paul, present.
Greenman, St. Paul, present. Grossel, excused. Grunhagen.
Grunhagen, Glencoe, present.
Grunhagen, Glencoe, present. Haley. Haley, St. Paul, present. Hamilton.
Hamilton, St. Paul, present.
Hamilton, St. Paul, present. Hanson R.
Hanson R. Harmony, present.
Hanson R. Harmony, present. Hanson J.
Hanson J. St. Paul, present.
Hanson J. St. Paul, present. Hassan.
Hassan, St. Paul, present.
Hassan, St. Paul, present. Hausman.
Hausman, St. Paul, present.
Hausman, St. Paul, present. Heinrich.
Heinrich, Anoka, present.
Heinrich, Anoka, present. Heinzman.
Heinzman, St. Paul, present.
Heinzman, St. Paul, present. Her, St. Paul, present. Hertas.
Hertas, Greenfield, present.
Hertas, Greenfield, present. Hollins.
Collins, St. Paul, present.
Hollins, St. Paul, present. Hornstein.
Hornstein, Minneapolis, present.
Hornstein, Minneapolis, present. Howard. Howard.
Howard, St. Paul, present.
Howard, St. Paul, present. Hewitt.
Hewitt, Rosemount, present.
Hewitt, Rosemount, present. Igo.
Igo, St. Paul, present.
Igo, St. Paul, present. Johnson.
Johnson, St. Paul, present.
Johnson, St. Paul, present. Jordan.
Jordan, St. Paul, present.
Jordan, St. Paul, present. Jurgens.
Jurgens, St. Paul, present.
Jurgens, St. Paul, present. Keeler.
Keeler, St. Paul, present.
Keeler, St. Paul, present. Keel.
Keel, St. Paul, present.
Keel, St. Paul, present. Cleveland.
Cleveland, Plymouth, present.
Cleveland, Plymouth, present. Kegel.
Kegel, St. Paul, present.
Kegel, St. Paul, present. Katiza, Watun.
Katiza, Watun, Eden Prairie, present.
Katiza, Watun, Eden Prairie, present. Kosnick.
Osnick, St. Paul, present.
Kosnick, St. Paul, present. Creshaw.
Creshaw, Little Falls, present.
Creshaw, Little Falls, present. Lee.
Lee, Minneapolis, present.
Lee, Minneapolis, present. Liebling.
Liebling, Rochester, present.
Liebling, Rochester, present. Lilly.
Lily, North St. Paul, present.
Lilly, North St. Paul, present. Lippert.
Lippert, St. Paul, present.
Lippert, St. Paul, present. Listlegard.
Listlegard, St. Paul, present.
Listlegard, St. Paul, present. Long.
Long, Minneapolis, present.
Long, Minneapolis, present. Lucero.
Lucero, Wright County, present.
Lucero, Wright County, present. Lewick.
Lewick, Aiken, present.
Are you working today?
Lewick.
I won't keep you, but I just
Lewick, Aiken, present.
Lewick, Aiken, present. Mariani.
All right.
Mariani. Markwart.
Markwart, Dilworth, present.
Markwart, Dilworth, present. Mason.
Mason, Egan, present.
Mason, Egan, present. McDonald.
McDonald, Delano, present.
McDonald, Delano, present. Mecklin.
Mecklen, Becker Township, present.
Mecklenbecker Township, present. Miller. Miller. Moeller.
Moeller, Shoreview, present.
Moeller, Shoreview, present. Moran.
Moran, St. Paul, present.
Moran, St. Paul, present. Morrison.
Morrison, Deep Haven, present.
Morrison, Deep Haven, present. Mortensen.
Mortensen, St. Paul, present.
Mortensen, St. Paul, present. Mueller. Mueller, St. Paul, present. Munson.
Munson, Lincoln Township, present.
Munson, Lincoln Township, present. Murphy.
Murphy, St. Louis County, present.
Murphy, St. Louis County, present. Nash.
Nash, Waconia, present.
Nash, Waconia, present. Nelson M.
Nelson M., Brooklyn Park, present.
Nelson M. Brooklyn Park, present. Nelson N.
Nelson N., St. Paul, present.
Nelson N. St. Paul, present. New Brindley.
New Brindley, North Branch, present.
New Brindley, North Branch, present. Noor.
No, Minneapolis, present.
Noor, Minneapolis, present. Novotny.
Novotny, Elk River, present.
Novotny, Elk River, present. O'Driscoll. O'Driscoll, St. Paul, present. Olson B.
Olson B., St. Paul, present.
Olson B, St. Paul, present. Olson L.
Olson L. Duluth, present.
Olson L, Duluth, present. O'Neill.
O'Neill, Maple Lake, present.
O'Neill, Maple Lake, present. Pulowski.
Pulowski, Winona, present.
Pulowski, Winona, present. Petersburg.
Petersburg, St. Paul, present.
Petersburg, St. Paul, present. Farr.
Farr, LeSueur, present.
Farr, LeSueur, present. Pearson.
Pearson, Rochester Township, present.
Pearson, Rochester Township, present. Pinto.
Pinto, St. Paul, present.
Pinto, St. Paul, present. Poston.
Poston, Lakeshore, present.
Poston, Lakeshore, present. Pryor.
Pryor, Duluth, present.
Pryor, Duluth, present. Quam.
Quam, Byron, present.
Quam, Byron, present. Raleigh. Raleigh, St. Paul, present. Rasmussen. Rasmussen, St. Paul, present. Ryer.
Pryor, Egan, present.
Ryer, Egan, present. Richardson.
Richardson, Mendota Heights, present.
Richardson, Mendota Heights, present. Robbins. Robbins, St. Paul, present. Sandell.
Sandell, Woodbury, present.
Sandell, Woodbury, present. Sandsted. Excused. Schumacher.
Schumacher, Laverne, present.
Schumacher, Laverne, present. Schultz.
Schultz, St. Paul, present.
Schultz, St. Paul, present. Scott.
Scott, Andover, present.
Scott, Andover, present. Stevenson. Stevenson.
Stevenson, Coon Rapids, present.
Stevenson, Coon Rapids, present. Sundin.
Sundin, St. Paul, present.
Sundin, St. Paul, present. Swazinski.
Swazinski, Nordland Township, present.
Swazinski, Nordland Township, present. Tice.
Tice, St. Cloud, present.
Tice, St. Cloud, present. Thompson.
Thompson, St. Paul, present.
Thompson, St. Paul, present. Torkelson.
Torkelson, St. Paul, present.
Torkelson, St. Paul, present. Erdahl.
Erdahl, St. Paul, present.
Erdahl, St. Paul, present. Vang.
Vang, Brooklyn Center, present.
Vang, Brooklyn Center, present. Waslowick.
Waslowick, White Bear Township, present.
Waslowick, White Bear Township, present. West.
West Blaine, present.
West, Blaine, present. Winkler. Winkler, St. Paul, present. Walgamot. Walgamot, St. Paul, present. Zhangjiai.
John J. St. Paul, present.
Zhangjiai, St. Paul, present. Zhang T.
Zhang T. Maplewood, present.
Zhang T. Maplewood, present. Joachim.
Joachim, St. Paul, present.
Joachim, St. Paul, present. Speaker Hartman. Speaker Hartman, St. Paul, present. Carlson.
Carlson, Bloomington, present.
Carlson, Bloomington, present. Mariani.
Mariani, St. Paul, present.
Mariani, St. Paul, present. Miller. Excused.
A quorum is present. The clerk will read the journal of the preceding day.
Journal of the House, 92nd Session, 2021, 20th day, St. Paul, Minnesota, Thursday, March 4th, 2021.
If there is no objection, further reading of the journal will be dispensed with, and the journal will be approved as corrected by the chief clerk. Hearing no objection, the journal is approved as corrected by the chief clerk. Comparison reports. There are copies of this order of business online. If there is no objection, the motions will prevail. Hearing no objection, the motions prevail. Reports of standing committees and divisions. A copy of this order of business is online. If there is no objection, the reports will be adopted. Representative Lucero.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I would request that HF 112 be pulled out and voted on separately.
Representative Lucero requests that House File 112 be called out and voted on separately. We will act on all other committee reports first and then act on the report on House File number 112. If there is no objection, the reports with the exception of House File 112 will be adopted. Hearing no objection, the reports are adopted. We will now act on House File 112. Is there any discussion? Representative Lucero.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. So House File 112 recently was heard in the Commerce Committee, and I am so embarrassed and ashamed for the actions that took place and the behavior that was exhibited, instigated by the chair and allowed to happen by the majority. So the chief author of the bill of HF 112, which is Chair Bernardy, was given all the time she needed to detail her goal to violate Minnesota private property rights. Hardworking Minnesotans took time out of their busy schedules to prepare testimony, to come before the committee, and to explain to the committee members how the details of HF 112 are going to inflict hardship on them. Instead of actually listening to the comments of hardworking Minnesotans, they were just cut off. The chair just flat out cut them off in mid-sentence. Then, at the end of the committee, we as the committee members were given 30 seconds to ask questions. Okay, members of the committee, you have 30 seconds each, was what the chair said. And this was after just incredibly negative behavior that was allowed to occur. And so I was in the middle of the question. I was cut off. Other members were just cut off in mid-sentence. There was zero vetting of this bill, Madam Speaker and members. The bill made an appearance in committee not because there was an interest in actually vetting the bill, not because there was an interest in gaining clarity of the bill, not because there was an interest in hearing the impact to Minnesotans. No, it was in committee just for the show. It was rammed through in the most unprofessional way, stifling the voices, again, of many. HF 112 absolutely must be returned to the Commerce Committee. And if it's not, Madam Speaker, to be given a thorough and fair vetting, then the actions that occurred are simply going to be permitted in the Minnesota House, which is an action of disrepute on this great body. So, Madam Speaker and members, I would encourage returning HF 112 to the Commerce Committee so that we can actually do our job and actually listen to the voices of Minnesotans. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
The member from Anoka, the chair of the Commerce Committee, Representative Stevenson, to the motion.
Well, thank you, Madam Speaker. I would oppose maybe a point of parliamentary inquiry. Does he support the motion here, approve the committee report, or are we opposing Representative Lucero's motion to return it to the Commerce Committee?
The motion is to adopt the committee report. I think we maybe we'll fix the descriptor that was up on the screen for a minute. The vote on adoption, so a green or yes vote would adopt the committee report. A red or a no vote would reject the committee report. Representative Stevenson.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for clarifying that for me. So I would be asking members to adopt the committee report. House File 112 is a bill related to housing. It was heard in the committee which has primary jurisdiction over housing, the Housing Committee, where it received a full and ample hearing. I understand it took the better part of a full hearing. We heard it in the Commerce Committee, though we don't have primary jurisdiction because the section of law it relates to is in the consumer protection and trade regulation sections of our statute, which the Commerce Committee deals with on a regular basis. It's important to note that no amendments were filed or voted upon, and also that everyone who signed up to testify was given the opportunity to testify, albeit for only 1 minute instead of our usual practice, which is 2 minutes. Members, I would love it if we could have longer conversations about every bill that comes our way and allow unlimited testimony. But legislating during a pandemic when we have remote hearing times is hard, and we have limited time and resources and a lot of work to do. And so we did have to limit debate and discussion, but everyone had the opportunity to be heard, and everyone had the opportunity to vote. And so I would ask members to support the committee report and vote green.
The member from Isanti, Representative Daudt.
Thank you, Madam Speaker and members, and appreciate the chair's very creative opinion of what happened. But for those that watched the video, it was pretty egregious. So I would just ask the majority party to understand that not everybody has to agree with you, and it actually does make for better legislation when you hear those that don't agree with you. So I think this is a good opportunity for us to just look at something that happened, admit that it was wrong. I think anybody that watches the videotape can see that it was wrong. And let's do better the next time. So let's send this bill back to committee. I'd ask everybody to vote no. Thank you.
Representative Winkler.
Madam Speaker, members, I ask for your support on adoption. We all know that the committee process is imperfect. The fact of the matter is that, especially with operating under Rule 10.01, remote hearings, it is difficult to change, to add to the committee time, to change the agenda, to legislate on the fly like we have often done in the past, and it requires a bit of a culture shift. We have asked, House leadership has asked chairs to be careful about planning committee hearings so that you give adequate time, the chairs give adequate time to minority members and the public to be involved. But the fact of the matter is we have a lot of work to do in a short amount of time, and we can never have enough process to do as much as we would like, as Chair Stevenson said. So we will adopt the committee report. This bill was thoroughly heard in the Housing Committee, where the committee had primary jurisdiction. And not every hearing on every bill is an opportunity to rehear the entire bill. Focusing in on the issues before the committee, narrowing the testimony to exactly what's in front of the committee, planning it out, both on the majority and the minority side, is what we need to do. And you have our commitment to continue to improve this process as we go forward. But sending this bill back to committee would be a form of punishment on the bill and the people who the bill is designed to help, rather than a way to improve the process. So I ask you to vote yes to adopt the report.
Representative Daudt.
Thank you, Madam Speaker and members. It just dawned on me that when the majority leader was speaking, I thought we could just get on the record here how much time the majority party thinks maybe is appropriate in committee that the minority party could have to ask some questions. I think this bill was heard for about an hour. The majority party offered us 2.5 minutes for questions. Do we think that maybe, obviously I think we think that's wrong, right? That we should have a little more opportunity. And committee is where we vet these bills, right? That's where we ask the questions and find out, are there some problems with the bill or not? Are there things we need to change? That's where we really have the opportunity to ask those questions. So I'd like to ask the majority leader to yield for a question, if he would.
He will yield. Representative Daudt.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And Majority Leader Winkler, do we think maybe half the time of question and answer could be questions from the minority party? Or, at this point, I would settle for 1/3 of the time, but is there something that you think is fair? And I just want to get that on the record.
Representative Winkler.
Madam Speaker, Representative Daudt, I think it does depend a lot on the circumstances. On some bills, the amount of time for member questions may be comparatively short and the need for public testimony may be long. I think the better guide is not exactly setting an amount of time or a ratio, but making sure that the chair is working with the minority lead and the minority members as well as the bill author to adequately allocate time to address a bill and to be understanding that it is not always possible to give every bill all the time they deserve because of the amount that we are trying to accomplish in a short and limited period of time.
Representative Daudt.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and thank you, Representative Winkler. I just, again, I'll repeat what I said. I think this is an opportunity for us to recognize that, we didn't do very well on this particular bill. I'd encourage you, if you haven't seen it, to go back and watch the video. It's actually kind of comical. And that's not really the way we should treat each other in the House of Representatives. So I just encourage everyone, let's just together do better. Thank you.
The member from Stearns, Representative O'Driscoll.
Well, thank you, Madam Speaker and members. The bill that we're talking about, House File 112, although it did maybe have a thorough vetting in the House Housing Committee, it was the first bill that was up on the agenda in the Commerce Committee on the day that the bill was scheduled. And the chair went through and began the meeting, called for the approval of the minutes, and then introduced the bill author, but the bill author wasn't there. And so what the chair did then was the chair laid that bill over and went on to the next bill that was on the agenda that day. But that bill author wasn't in committee either. So then for the third time that we were looking for a bill author, the chair brought that bill up and said, so is this bill author here? Well, all three bill authors that had bills on the committee agenda that day weren't present. So the chair called a recess of the committee to be able to go find bill authors to come into the Zoom room to be able to do committee. So we lost probably at that point about probably 10 to 12 minutes of time because we didn't have bill authors that were present. Now for the 14 minutes that this bill did get at the end of committee, plus the other 12 minutes that we could have had about a 26-minute hearing on a bill and a 90-minute committee hearing. And as I visited with others, we determined that this is probably a rather controversial bill as well. I also believe that's why the chair put it as first on the agenda. So members, I would strongly encourage us to be more diligent in getting our members to committee on time when they have bills and to managing the clock in these very difficult times that Minnesotans are finding themselves in. So with that, Madam Speaker, I would support the motion to bring that bill back to committee. Thank you.
Any further discussion? Representative Winkler.
Madam Speaker, I just wanted to address the comments of Representative O'Driscoll and to make sure that members and the public understand that legislators having to manage multiple committee hearings at one time and to look for bill authors and try to get people in the room at one time or another as the agenda is moving through is standard operating procedure because people are trying to accomplish a lot. So I don't think it is right or fair to suggest that members are not being diligent by not being in the room at the time the agenda is drawn up, because we all know in our experience that legislating in this environment requires us to work long hours, to work in multiple places at once, and to find a way to juggle that. And cooperation amongst members and between the majority and the minority is important, and you have our commitment to continue to improve on that.
Representative O'Driscoll.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And to Representative Winkler, I didn't directly hear it in there, but I also want to make sure that you're not impugning my motives for bringing up what had happened in that situation. I respect the fact that there are multiple bill authors that have to be in multiple committees, but that's the job of the majority, to schedule those things and make sure that things move and flow in a manner that's conducive to doing House business. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Any further discussion?
Closing comment, Madam Speaker.
Oh, Representative Lucero, thanks for reminding me you're the one that raised this issue. Representative Lucero.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Well, I just want to reiterate that we do not want to impugn this great establishment. And if we were to move this bill forward, given the circumstances that happened, it is simply a slap in the face to hardworking Minnesotans. I feel so bad for the Minnesotans who came out to testify. They took time out of their schedule. They prepared their remarks just to be told, oh, sorry, sir, not enough time. Go away. We're not interested. You know what's more important, Minnesotans? This is what the majority is saying to Minnesotans who want to give their opinion in committee, is we have so much work to do that's going to negatively impact your life per the comments that the majority leader just gave. We are trying to accomplish so much that's going to infringe and make your life so difficult that we don't have time to even hear your voice. So just go away, Minnesota, so we can cram our bad agenda through and grow government and ruin your lives. Madam Speaker, this has to go back to the Commerce Committee. Thank you.
Seeing no further discussion, my understanding that a roll call is required on a motion like this, or a roll call has been requested? Has not been requested. All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed to the motion, please say no.
No.
The report is adopted. Second reading of House files.
Second reading House File number 112.
Second reading.
Second reading House File 398.
Second reading.
Second reading House File 399.
Second reading.
Second reading House File 400.
Second reading.
Second reading House File 566.
Second reading.
House File 1060.
Second reading.
Second reading House File 1407.
Second reading.
And second reading House File 1435.
Second reading. Second reading of Senate files.
Second reading Senate File number 1091.
Second reading. Introduction of House files. The following House files have been offered for introduction today. The Chief Clerk will report the House files and give them their first reading.
Introduction of first reading of House Files 1954 through 2035.
First reading House files 1954 through 2035. Motions and resolutions. There's copies of the non-controversial motions at the House desk and online. If there's no objection, we will take action on these motions first. Hearing no objection, the motions prevail.
Morrison moves that House File number 752 be recalled from the Committee on Taxes and be referred to the Committee on Health, Finance, and Policy.
The member from Hennepin, Representative Morrison.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. That is my motion. Both chairs are aware. This is a bill to create an account for tobacco prevention funds.
Any discussion to the Morrison motion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, please say no. The motion prevails.
Markworth moves that House File number 1019, now on the General Register, be re-referred to the Committee on Taxes.
The member from Clay, Representative Markwart.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. And this is House File 1019, which creates a tax expenditure review commission. It should be re-referred to taxes. Ask members for your support.
Representative Markwart has maybe a companion that would like to meet Gilbert sometime. All those in favor of the Markwart motion, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, please say no. The motion prevails.
Edelson moves that House File number 1124 be recalled from the Committee on Health, Finance, and Policy and be re-referred to the Committee on Education Policy.
Thank you, Madam Chair. That is my motion. It is a bill that's relating to nursing in a school and should really be started in education policy.
Any discussion to the Edelson motion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, please say no. The motion prevails.
Hassan moves that House File number 1389 be recalled from the Committee on Human Services, Finance, and Policy and be re-referred to the Committee on Capital Investment.
The member from Hennepin, Representative Hassan.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. That is my motion. House File 1389 is the bill relating to capital investment. It's an issuance for shelter facility appropriation bonds, and it should be referred to capital investment and not human services, finance, and policy. Thank you.
Any discussion to the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, please say no. The motion prevails. For the record, that was not Paul Markwart's dog barking.
Wolgamott moves that House File Number 1822 be recalled from the Committee on Health, Finance, and Policy and be re-referred to the Committee on Human Services, Finance, and Policy.
Which county are you from, Representative Wolgamott?
Madam Speaker, I am proud to reside in Sherburne County.
The member from Sherburne, Representative Wolgamott.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. That is my motion. House File 1822 establishes certain temporary modifications to human service programs in response to the COVID-19 pandemic. Therefore, it should be re-referred to the Committee on Human Services, Finance, and Policy. I've spoken with both the chairs, Madam Speaker, and they do support this motion.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, please say no. The motion prevails.
Bierman moves that House File Number 1854 be recalled from the Committee on Human Services, Finance, and Policy and be re-referred to the Committee on Health, Finance, and Policy.
The member from Dakota, Representative Bierman.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. That is my motion. This bill carries modifying updates and clarifications of healthcare administration across various divisions to meet current requirements and needs, and I have cleared it with both chairs. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Any discussion to the Bierman motion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, please say no. The motion prevails.
Ryer moves that House File Number 1918 be recalled from the Committee on Human Services, Finance, and Policy and be re-referred to the Committee on Health, Finance, and Policy.
The member from Dakota, Representative Ryer, to your motion.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. That is my motion. House File 1918 is a health bill focused on improving access to dental health care in our Medicaid and Minnesota Care programs, especially for children. I've spoken with both chairs and they're in agreement that it should be re-referred. Thank you.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, please say no.
Aye.
The motion prevails.
Ryer moves that House File Number 1951 be recalled from the Committee on Capital Investment and be re-referred to the Committee on Transportation, Finance, and Policy.
Representative Ryer.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. That is my motion. House File 1951 is a bonding bill for improvements on Highway 3 in Egan. I've spoken with the chairs of Capital Investment and Transportation, and since this bill uses trunk highway bonds, they agreed it should be re-referred to Transportation. Thank you.
Any discussion to the Ryer motion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, please say no. The motion prevails.
Haley moves that House Concurrent Resolution Number 1 be recalled from the Committee on Rules and Legislative Administration and be placed upon its adoption.
The member from Goodhue, I think, Representative Haley.
You are correct, Madam Speaker. I am from Goodhue. Members, House Concurrent Resolution Number 1 is a resolution to end the governor's emergency powers. This week marks the 1-year mark that we have been living under emergency powers. It is an unwelcome, unnecessary, and unpopular anniversary to mark. I don't think any of us, nor the folks that originally wrote Chapter 12, imagined that it would be used in this fashion and for this long to control the lives of Minnesotans. When the pandemic first started, we rallied together in this chamber and we supported the governor to get PPE out to our hospitals and to get mitigation efforts to save Minnesotans' lives. We're in a very, very different place. We were told that when hospitalization rates dropped and ICU rates dropped, that emergency powers would end. Well, ICU rates and hospitalization rates are plummeting, and yet here we are. Minnesotans know how to be safe, and it's time to trust them to safely go on with their lives. We have therapies for this disease, we have mitigation strategies, we have vaccines that are remarkably wildly successful and are being distributed widely around the state. We have many counties that have hit 60 to 70% of 65 and plus year olds haven't been vaccinated. That in and of itself would eliminate nearly 90% of hospitalizations and 90% of deaths, and that's coming from our hospital and healthcare partners. There is no reason to continue emergency powers. When you look back at this year, every aspect of Minnesotans' lives have been controlled by one man. Who you could socialize with, how you could celebrate holidays, how you could see your loved ones that were in nursing homes, or sadly in the hospital, if your kids could go to school or not, if your kids could play sports or not, if you could gather with your neighbors, if you could keep your business open. Every aspect of our lives has been dictated by emergency orders under these emergency powers. And again, here we are today. Hospital rates plummeting. Vaccines widely available. Some of you have voted with us in the past, multiple times with us on ending these powers. And I would view, frankly, any vote against this today as abdicating your constitutional oath that you took to serve in these chambers and the responsibility that you have to serve your constituents, to be their voice in these chambers. Hasn't it gone on long enough with a monologue out of the governor's office, with the governor standing behind a podium and telling us how we can live our lives? I think it's time, Governor. It's time for a dialogue with the legislature. I mentioned months ago, I explained to the constituents of Minnesota that might be watching, the meaning of these pins that we wear. That means we're here to serve you. I cannot imagine voting not to do that, not to do our jobs that we were elected to do, that people entrusted us to do. 1 year is long enough. Minnesotans know how to be safe. They need to get back to living their lives. I heard today that the Twins are going to allow fans in the stands. I would love to go to a Twins game. But yet businesses don't know if they can fully reopen. People that want to get married don't know how many people they can have at their reception. Many parents don't know if their kids will be back in school to graduate or if they can have a graduation ceremony. It's spring in Minnesota. Many, many important events in people's lives are right around the corner. And they are calling us and begging us every day to give them their lives back. It's time, Minnesota. Members, I ask that you vote in support of ending the governor's emergency powers today. Thank you, Madam Speaker. And Madam Speaker, I'd request a roll call on my resolution.
Representative Haley requests a roll call. There are not 15 members in the chamber. If you would like to raise your hand for the roll call, email hands@house.mn with the word hands in the subject line. There are 15 hands. There will be a roll call. Discussion to the Haley motion. Representative Winkler.
Madam Speaker, members, I would ask for a no vote on the Haley motion. Most members may not be aware, but the Subcommittee on Legislative Process Reform, which has been meeting consistently since the beginning of session to address this very issue of how Chapter 12 powers will be unwinding, reported out a bill out of committee on Friday. I don't serve on that subcommittee, but it has been sent to the Rules Committee. My intention is to advance the bill to further committees for further consideration. The bill creates an off-ramp and an on-ramp for emergency powers by the governor based on actual numbers of disease transmission and other factors in Minnesota. So we are moving forward with legislation through the regular committee process to address how we do this. And we are certainly not done with COVID-19 because COVID-19 is not yet done with us. We are fortunate that over 1 million Minnesotans have been vaccinated. We are fortunate that we can see the light at the end of the tunnel. The president has said that virtually all Americans should be able to be vaccinated by the end of May. So we are very, very close, and we have every expectation that all of the things that Representative Haley described happening will happen, but we cannot assume that they will happen, and we need to make sure that the power is in place to protect Minnesotans in the event that things don't turn out just exactly the way we hope that they will, and it looks like they will. So members, I ask for a no vote. We need to preserve the powers, and the legislature itself is working on a bill to wind down those powers based on data, and so that is the right way to do this, and I ask for a no vote.
Representative Daudt. No. Representative Haley.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And Leader Winkler, I need to clarify some of the things that you said. I do serve on the Committee for Legislative Process Reform with Chair Pawlowski. And yes, Representative Sandsteed's bill was voted out of committee last Friday. It is not, did not receive bipartisan support, and a number of us have committed to continue working with Representative Sandsteed to work on that bill. But that bill addresses business reopening. That bill does not change one word of the governor's emergency powers. It does not give the legislature a voice in changing one other executive order. So there's a lot of work to do, Representative Winkler, and I will be anxious to see bills that actually address emergency powers come out of that committee and then come out of the Rules Committee so that this chamber can have a voice in representing our constituents. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Seeing no further discussion, the clerk will take the roll on the Haley motion. Those who are voting remotely, please vote. Will the clerk please call the names of those who have not voted yet?
Berg.
No.
Berg, no. Davids.
David's aye.
Davids, aye. Eklund.
No.
Eklund, no. Gomez.
Gomez, no.
Gomez, no. Green.
Green, aye.
Green, aye. Gruenhagen.
Gruenhagen, aye.
Gruenhagen, aye. Hansen, R.
Hanson R, no.
Hansen, R, no. Hausman.
Hausman, no.
Hausman, no. Heinrich.
Heinrich, aye.
Heinrich, aye. Kresha. Kresha.
Kresha, aye.
Kresha, aye. Mariani.
Mariani, no.
Mariani, no. Mason.
Mason, no.
Mason, no. McDonald.
Donald, yes.
McDonald, aye. Murphy.
Murphy, no.
Murphy, no. Nash.
Nash, aye.
Nash, aye. Nelson, N.
Nelson, N, aye.
Nelson, N, aye. Pryor.
Pryor, no.
Pryor, no. Schumacher.
Schumacher, aye.
Schumacher, aye. Stevenson.
Stevenson, no.
Stevenson, no. Sundin.
Sundin, no.
Sundin, no. Thompson.
Thompson, no.
Thompson, no.
The clerk will close the roll. There being 62 ayes and 69 nays, the motion does not prevail. The bill is not recalled from rules.
House Concurrent Resolution number 6, a House Concurrent Resolution expressing the sense of the Minnesota House concerning the use of Minnesota mineral resources as key components of technically advanced energy and telecommunications devices. The concurrent resolutions being referred to the Committee on Rules and Legislative Administration.
Announcements. Representative Winkler.
Madam Speaker, first, just an announcement. We will be having short, hopefully, paper-moving sessions tomorrow and Wednesday so that we can continue our work to meet deadlines this week. We expect those to be at 12 noon. So, Madam Speaker, I move that when the House adjourns today, it adjourns until 12 noon Tuesday, March 9th, 2021.
Representative Winkler moves that when the House adjourns today, it adjourns until 12 noon Tuesday, March 9th, 2021. All those in favor, please say aye. Those opposed, please say no. The motion prevails. Representative Winkler.
Madam Speaker, I move that the House do now adjourn.
Representative Winkler moves that the House do now adjourn. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, please say no. The motion prevails. The House stands adjourned until 12 noon Tuesday, March 9th, 2021.